In 1964, a woman in Buffalo, New York took a part of the chicken so cheap it was usually reserved for soup stock or thrown straight in the trash, and turned it into one of the most consumed snack foods in American history. That sounds insane, but it happened. What sounds even more insane is that the official story, the one printed on plaques and repeated in 1,000 articles, may not be the whole truth. Because at almost the exact same time, in a different part of the same city, someone else says they were already serving the same idea to a very different crowd with none of the fame. So, how did a scrap of poultry become a billion-dollar industry, a Super Bowl tradition, and a national obsession, while the person who may have gotten there first was written out of the story completely? For most of American culinary history, the chicken wing was garbage. Not literally, but functionally. Restaurants used the breast. They used the thigh. They used the leg. The wing was bony, mostly skin, barely worth the labor of eating. It went into stock pots. It went into soup. In a lot of kitchens, it went into the bin. That single fact matters more than it sounds like it should. Because the story of buffalo wings is not really a story about chicken. It is a story about scarcity, waste, and the strange American talent for turning what's left over into what's iconic. This is not a new pattern. Lobster was prisoner food in colonial New England. Brisket was a cut nobody wanted until Jewish delis and Texas pitmasters made it a religion. Offal fed the poor for centuries before it fed the fashionable. The wing was just the next scrap in line, a cheap, unwanted byproduct waiting for someone to see it differently. It just so happened that someone, or someones, depending on who you ask, lived in Buffalo, New York in the early 1960s. Here is the official story, the one you'll hear if you walk into the Anchor Bar on Main Street in Buffalo today. The Anchor Bar had been open since 1935, founded by Sicilian immigrants Frank and Teresa Bellissimo. By 1964, their son Dominic was tending bar most nights. On the evening of March 4th, a group of Dominic's friends came in late, hungry, looking for something to eat. Teresa was in the kitchen. What she had on hand were chicken wings, the part normally reserved for the stock pot. According to one version of the story, she deep-fried them, tossed them in a mix of hot sauce and butter, and served them with celery sticks and blue cheese dressing, more or less because it was what she had in the fridge. According to a slightly different version, told by Frank rather than Dominic, it wasn't generosity. It was an accident. A supplier delivered wings instead of the necks and backs the bar had ordered for its spaghetti sauce. Frank refused to use them for sauce. Teresa was told to make them edible somehow. She fried them. She sauced them. Problem solved. Two stories, same wings, different reasons. Even inside the Bellissimo family, nobody fully agrees on how it happened, but everyone agrees on what happened next. The wings were a hit. Not eventually, not after years of tinkering, but almost immediately. Within weeks, they were the talk of the Buffalo restaurant scene. They went from a free midnight snack to a permanent item on the dinner menu. And within a decade, buffalo wings were not just a Buffalo thing anymore. This decision seemed small at the time. It was not. Here's where the story most people have never heard begins. At almost the same time, the Anchor Bar was building its legend, a black restaurateur named John Young was reportedly already serving fried chicken wings his own way on the other side of Buffalo. His version came coated in a tomato-based mumbo sauce, and by some accounts, he had been serving it since as early as 1961, 3 years before the famous night at the Anchor Bar. In 1966, he opened his own restaurant, Wings and Things, which drew long lines from Buffalo's black community. Notice what didn't happen. Young's wings didn't get a historical plaque, They didn't get a tourism campaign. They didn't get syndicated across 1,000 food blogs as the birthplace of the chicken wing. The Anchor Bar did. That's not necessarily a story about a lie. Nobody can prove with total certainty who served a wing coated in spicy sauce first, in a city where multiple bars, taverns, and home kitchens may have landed on a similar idea independently. But it is absolutely a story about whose version got remembered and whose version got a business built around it, a trademark, and a place in the history books, while the other got a footnote, if it got mentioned at all. It built one family a landmark. It erased another family from the headline entirely. It turned a shared, contested moment in Buffalo's kitchens into a single, tidy origin myth, the kind that fits neatly on a menu. If you are finding this interesting, hit subscribe. We cover stories like this every week, and you will not want to miss what is coming next. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, Buffalo had a wing problem, a good one. Multiple bars claimed some version of credit. Duff's Famous Wings, another Buffalo institution, says it began serving Buffalo-style wings around 1969, developing its own double fry method along the way. Some longtime locals even suggest informal wing service was already happening around the city well before 1964, quietly, in bars that never became famous enough to have their name attached to it. None of that ambiguity made it into the story that spread nationally. What spread nationally was simpler. One bar, one family, one dramatic midnight moment. It's a better story. It has a hero. It has a date. It has a building you can visit, order a plate at, and take a photo outside of. Simplicity travels. Nuance does not. This is the part most people never learn about. Food origin stories are rarely invented from nothing. They are usually the simplified survivor of several competing, messier, more complicated truths. And the version that wins is often the version with the best marketing, the clearest founder, or the fewest inconvenient details. Buffalo wings had at least 2, possibly 3, real points of origin. Only one of them got a historic marker. Whatever the true first origin, the Anchor Bar's version is the one that spread, and it spread with real speed. By the 1970s, Buffalo wings were standard across the city's dining scene, with local restaurants developing their own house sauces and frying methods. National food writers started making the trip to Buffalo specifically to try them. Magazine features followed. Cooking shows followed. Visitors carried the idea home to other states, other cities, other bars that wanted their own version of the same late-night hit. The wing had gone from a stock pot scrap to a signature regional dish in less than a generation. And then it went further. Restaurant chains built entirely around wings began appearing across the country through the 1980s and 90s, chief among them a chain literally named after the dish. What had started as a way to use up an unwanted chicken part had become, within 30 years, the foundation of an entire category of American casual dining. Here is where the story stops being about one bar or one city and starts being about supply chains. For the wing to go from regional specialty to national staple, something had to change on the farm, not just in the fryer. Chicken producers had spent decades breeding birds for bigger breasts because that's what Americans historically wanted. Think chicken breast, chicken tenders, boneless, everything. Wings were a byproduct of that breast-focused industry, not the point of it. Suddenly, in the wake of Buffalo's popularity, wings weren't a byproduct anymore. They were the product. Demand for wings began climbing so fast that it started to outstrip supply during the years wing consumption exploded, occasionally driving up wholesale prices sharply enough to make national news. a genuine wing shortage, driven not by drought or disease, but by America, simply deciding it wanted more of a part of the chicken it used to throw away. Poultry companies responded the way industrial agriculture always responds to demand, with scale, bigger flocks, faster processing, wings portioned, frozen, shipped, and sold in bulk to restaurant chains, grocery stores, and stadiums. The scrap became a commodity with its own futures pricing behavior. The soup stock leftover had become something food executives tracked on spreadsheets. So what does a stockpot scrap look like at scale 60 years later? On Super Bowl Sunday alone, Americans are estimated to consume somewhere around 1.4 billion chicken wings in a single day, roughly the population of India in wings gone before halftime. Buffalo Wild Wings alone operates well over 1,000 locations across the United States and Canada. Wings have gone from an item you'd never order in a restaurant to one of the single most requested bar foods in the entire country. It built fortunes. It reshaped an entire agricultural industry. It gave a mid-sized Rust Belt city an identity that outlived its steel plants and grain elevators. A part of the chicken that used to be worth nothing now drives pricing decisions at some of the largest poultry producers on the continent. Step back far enough and the wing stops being a story about chicken at all. It becomes a story about who gets remembered. Teresa Bellissimo, whether she invented the dish out of generosity or necessity, became permanently attached to it. Her name is in history books. Her bar is a pilgrimage site. Her sauce recipe is guarded like a state secret. John Young, whether he served a version of the same idea years earlier, is barely known outside of Buffalo itself, and often not even there. Neither family lied exactly. Both told the story they remembered, the way their own families remembered it. But only one story had the infrastructure behind it. A bar building, a family business, a city eager to have something to be proud of. The other had a restaurant that closed and a community that remembered quietly without a marketing budget. That's the real pattern behind almost every invented here food story you've ever heard. It is rarely a lie and rarely the full truth either. It's the version that survived, the one with a building, a birthday, and someone left standing to keep telling it. So next time you're at a bar, watching a game, reaching for a wing without thinking twice about it, remember that you're holding 60 years of contested credit, an entire reshaped agricultural industry, and a part of the chicken that used to go straight in the trash. Look around your own kitchen right now. Somewhere in there is probably a leftover ingredient with a similar story waiting to be told. A part of an animal, a plant, or a grain that someone somewhere decided not to throw away. If this story surprised you, hit subscribe and leave a comment telling us which part surprised you the most.